Well, good evening. Welcome to the February edition of Sky Views, brought to you by the New Jersey State Museum Planetarium. I'm Bill Murray, planetarium technician at the Planetarium. Let's take a look at some interesting sights in our chilly February skies this year. Currently, we're looking towards the west on the evening of February 22nd. It's about 7:15 p.m. at the end of astronomical twilight. And what we're seeing is probably the best planetary lunar conjunction of the month. And that is the conjunction of the very small crescent moon and the planet Jupiter in our evening skies on the 22nd. The moon will be about 1 degree away from Jupiter. That's roughly 2 moon diameters. And below both the moon and Jupiter is a third bright planet, the planet Venus. Currently, Jupiter and Venus are on opposite sides of their close approach to us here on the Earth. Jupiter is fading as it sinks into the western skies after being in the night sky for many months now. We've talked about Jupiter over the last few editions of Sky Views. But Venus is just rising and will become much brighter and higher over the next few months. And there will actually be a close conjunction of both Jupiter and Venus at the beginning of next month, and we'll talk about that in the March edition of Sky Views. We're now looking towards the south, also on the evening of February 22nd, and we can see all of the constellations of winter that were just rising when we did the Sky Views talk back in January are now high up in our southern skies. And we can see them all linked by the famous asterism of the winter hexagon among 6 bright stars in 6 separate constellations in this part of the sky, starting at Rigel, which marks the foot of Orion the Hunter, on up to Aldebaran, the eye of Taurus the Bull, Capella in the constellation of Auriga the Charioteer, the 2 bright stars, Castor and Pollux, in the constellation of Gemini the Twins, Procyon in the constellation of Canis Minor, the Little Dog, and last but not least, Sirius in the constellation of Canis Major, the Big Dog. Let's take a closer look at the constellation of Canis Major, the Large Dog. In Greek mythology, Canis Major represented the mythological dog Laelaps, a dog that was supposed to be so fast that it could outrun any prey, and it was sent to hunt a fox that was also said to be so fast it could evade any hunter. And so every time the dog went to catch the fox would escape. And to alleviate the dog's frustration, Zeus, the king of the gods, put it into the sky as a constellation, where now it chases Lepus, the rabbit constellation. Canis Major's brightest star is Sirius, also known as the dog star. Sirius is also the brightest star that we can see from here on Earth, with the exception of the sun, of course. The sun is a star. And it is a near neighbor of the sun. It is a giant blue-white star, much larger than the sun, but only 8.7 light years away from us. And Sirius played an important role in the mythology and religions of both ancient Egypt and ancient Greece. The civilization of ancient Egypt was extremely dependent upon the Nile River, provided water and soil for farming to the ancient Egyptian civilization, and their civilization wouldn't have existed without the Nile. Every year, the Nile floods over its banks at roughly the same time, and this was an important event in ancient Egypt. It deposited rich soil around the area of the Nile River that allowed for farming to support their civilization, and was an important event that was very looked forward to. And the annual flooding of the Nile was very closely associated with the star Sirius. Shown here is an image of the astronomical event known as the heliacal rising of Sirius. We can see here the constellation of Orion rising over the eastern horizon, with Sirius just beginning to rise just above the eastern horizon. That's the bright star there. And we can also see that the horizon is being lit up by the glow of an early sunrise. So the heliacal rising of a star or a planet occurs when that star or planet rises just before sunrise. And in ancient Egypt, the heliacal rising of Sirius was the signal they looked for to know that the Nile was going to annually flood over its banks. And so it was very looked forward to. In ancient Greek civilization, the Greeks noted that the heliacal rising of Sirius, which nowadays occurs sometime between late July and early August, was also associated with very hot temperatures at that time of year. And their explanation for that was that the light from Sirius, the brightest star, combined with the light from the sun to create extra hot temperatures on Earth at that time. And these times during the summer were given the name the dog days to associate them with the dog star, Sirius. Sirius is also a double star. Shown in the image above, you can see its companion a little bit above and to the left of the star itself. Sirius B, also known as the Pup, is a white dwarf star, a very unusual kind of star. This is what's going to happen to our Sun in about 5 billion years when it exhausts its fuel. Sun-like stars, when they die, become unstable as they reach the end of their lives and use up most of their hydrogen fuel. And that instability allows them to throw off most of their remaining gas and dust into a cloud that expands away from the dead core of the star. That expanding cloud is called a planetary nebula, and what's left, the dead core of the star, slowly cooling and dying as no more nuclear reactions can occur, is a white dwarf. So this white dwarf is a preview of what's going to happen to our Sun sometime in the future. Sirius B was actually one of the first white dwarfs discovered back in the 19th century, and astronomers now know there are many more of this type of star as well. Almost 4 degrees due south of Sirius is one of the brightest open star clusters in the winter sky. M41, Messier 41, the 41st object on French comet hunters Charles Messier's list of non-cometary objects. And it is a very beautiful object to view through almost any size telescope. Open clusters are very young stars. M41 has a few hundred stars in it. When stars are born, they're born out of clouds of gas and dust. And eventually so many stars are born out of those clouds that their radiation disperses the remaining gas and dust, and what is left is an open cluster of very young stars that are still gravitationally bound to each other. And Messier 41 is one of the best objects of that class that you can see in our skies here in New Jersey. Well, that's a brief look at a few interesting objects visible in our chilly February skies here in New Jersey. Hopefully the weather will be clear and you'll get a chance to get them out and try to find some of them for yourselves. Next month, March, is the beginning of spring. We'll talk a little bit about that in next month's issue of Sky Views. And until then, from everyone here at the New Jersey State Museum Planetarium, clear skies.